In the last couple of years, there have been impressive developments in new technologies. The world is changing faster than in any other era. Still, schools and universities have not changed accordingly. Most countries are using traditional education systems. However, many students seem to be bored with this approach. They are annoyed by their teachers standing in front of the board and telling them about something they would much rather want to experience themselves, distracted by the people behind them chatting about their holidays. And what are the results? People turn to their phones, checking Twitter and Instagram, and the learning outcome of a 2-hour class is often close to a zero. In the search of active involvement of students, virtual reality or VR is a promising alternative. VR technology has its origins in the gaming industry. It provides an interactive experience in an artificial environment inspired by either real life or imagination. A computer-generated atmosphere with realistic actions, reactions, and consequences. Separate from the real world but totally immersive. With the vision of turning learning into an exciting experience, VR seems to be a good option for education. But will it lead to more effective learning experiences, or will it represent more challenges than solutions? Let's look at some advantages. We know that personal interest in a topic makes the learning process easier. We put more effort into the task when we are engaged by it, either because of the individual interest or the situation. VR would be profiting from this, meaning students would be more likely to pay attention and actively engage with the learning material. This has been tested with Google Cardboard, a device that allows people to use a smartphone for VR experience. Students using Google Cardboard showed a high level of interest and enjoyment than a group learning on a flat screen. The use of media affects how the students represent and process information. VR can provide an authentic atmosphere that feels like face-to-face interaction because it can transmit non-verbal cues like tone of voice, gestures, proximity, and facial expressions. Curtin University developed a VR simulation in which psychotherapy students would virtually conduct a home visit to an elderly patient. The student feedback was positive, highlighting that the experience with the virtual patient was more effective than reading about the subject and almost as good as conducting a real home visit. Because VR helps students collaborate and visualize things better, it allows for a more constructivist approach in education. This means that students are actively learning and therefore creating knowledge instead of just listening to their teacher and gaining knowledge passively. A 2018 study has shown that students using VR to design a piece of wearable tech were able to keep the better focus and came up with more creative solutions than those using pen and paper. With VR, the students can see and hear one another while also manipulating said environment together. Therefore, VR is providing a strong sense of group presence and collaboration and promotes the social skills of learners. The Unscissored Library is a collaborative project by 24 builders from 16 countries developed in Minecraft. It is not yet VR, but it exemplifies the opportunities virtual worlds offer for collaboration. The library is hosted on a server, allowing anyone from the world to visit and add information, regardless of press censorship. VR allows the users to experience an event from multiple different perspectives, even if the event itself would be mortal or too expensive in real life. In the end, the knowledge acquired in VR can be applied in the physical world. One case where VR is used to get a new perspective on scientific phenomena is the Project Air Morphologies. It allows people to explore the composition and effects of air pollution particles through VR glasses, making boring sounding statistics more tangible. Until this point, VR seems amazing, but there are some drawbacks to consider. To use VR as a teaching tool, you would need to train people to operate it, which is cost and time consuming. It requires a lot of effort and strategic planning to create an immersive and believable learning environment. VR learning programs are only as useful as the programming that created them. Apart from that, the animations are usually continuous and not tailored to the user, meaning that students would process irrelevant information and sometimes have memory overload. Extensive use of VR can lead to motion sickness or cyber sickness, headaches, and eye strain. This has a negative effect on students' learning experience, motivation, and their overall well-being, especially for older generations. VR has not been able to underline its price ceilings. It is still expensive to develop company-specific or site-specific VR training programs. Let's take a step back and reflect. Can VR become a real alternative to traditional education? We can see that implementing VR in education poses some technical challenges, but also huge opportunities. There are significant advantages for VR, especially when teaching motor skills like how to use a machine, and helping users visualize abstract concepts like molecules. VR does not sacrifice communication between users, but rather enhances the qualities of face-to-face interaction. Therefore, it is easier to create a constructivist, collaborative, and engaging environment. In the end, we must consider that VR is still an emerging technology. With its development, cost will reduce over time, the quality will increase, and the people will be less susceptible to cyber sickness.